Welcome in, guys, to the Full Force Fathers podcast. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm great, Brett. How are you?
I'm always fired up, like usual,
Yeah.
Just episode 5 already. It's hard to believe that we're over a month now. So I appreciate all the comments. Dave, same to you. Comments, questions. Hey, guys, even a little criticism. We have received a little bit of criticism, and thank you for that, because we can't get better without it. There's just...
Amen.
That is what it is. You need to know the good and the bad. If everything was good, not everything's roses and rainbows in the world. So a little bit of criticism.
It isn't?
No, of course, obviously not.
Oh man.
Are you kidding me?
I've been lied to.
You've been lied to. And everything's getting more expensive, by the way. That's a little side note, guys. We just bought eggs from the store. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole about prices of stuff. We'll hit some prices later in the show.
We'll jump on that a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll get it a little later show. But man, oh man, are prices outrageous. And I'm not even going to talk about gas prices. I'm talking about everything else. It's just insane. So, Dave, I'm going to let you start the show. So today, guys and gals out there, we're going to talk broad about food and alcohol. Two very key factors. All right, you have to have your health in check if you're a full force father: fitness, faith, finance. So the food portion and the alcohol portion, we're going to hit with the fitness and the finance part today. But it is a broad scope. We're going to kind of branch off of those two topics and hit a bunch of key points that Dave and I want to talk about today when it comes to food and alcohol. So yeah, Dave, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, I think a great place to start, as we normally do, is with a Bible verse. This is from Proverbs chapter 23, verses 20 and 21 combined, and it says, "Do not join those who drink too much wine or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags." Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot to swallow right there, but I think it's pretty straightforward. You don't need to overeat and you don't need to overdrink, because there's not a single benefit to either of those. And the more you eat and the more you drink, the more money you spend. And that ties into the poor part of it there, Dave. What do you know? Quick initial reaction.
Yeah, I think you just hit it, right? If we gorge ourselves on these things, that doesn't provide us with what we need to survive in the rest of our lives. And if you're focusing all of your attention on drinking too much wine and gorging ourselves, what's left? You don't have anything left. And I think that's really what it speaks to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I want to start off of that today. I want to talk a little bit about alcohol. I tend to be a little bit more passionate, Dave, when it comes to the alcohol thing. So, once again, drunkards and gluttons become poor. Drowsiness clothes them in rags. Because let's just be real, if you're drinking too much and you're eating too much, you're probably not making a lot of great decisions. But I want to start with the alcohol side of things today, Dave, and for a few reasons. Alcoholism has been a problem, there's a history of it in my family. I don't need to get into too much detail, but a very prominent member of my family, I've experienced what DUIs, I experienced what inpatient and outpatient critical care places are like, and the stress that it puts on you. And especially when it's a immediate family member, it takes a lot, it costs a lot. And there's just the consequences of it. So alcoholism in general is a touchy subject for me, because there's been a few members of my family that have been alcoholics and are recovered alcoholics, which is great now. But the pain and the agony of seeing it is the point that I want to drive home. It's hard. It's hard to see. It's hard to live with it. It's hard to witness it. And listen, alcohol is alcohol. You can't watch TV without seeing an alcohol commercial. Every major sporting event, Dave, is sponsored by an alcohol. Everything. It's so in our faces, Dave, in this country, and it's a major problem in my opinion. What do you think about it? It's just alcohol, 20,000-foot view of alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. In my family as well, one of my grandfathers had a serious alcohol problem, and it was my mom's dad, and she shielded me from that growing up, and she didn't really have a relationship with her father because of it, because of the abuse that he put onto her and her siblings and my grandmother. So I was kind of shielded from it, and because of that, my mom rarely drank at all. And my dad had a job where if he lost his license, he wouldn't be able to work. So, alcohol was never, prominent in my house. So I didn't see that as part of an everyday life situation. Whereas a lot of people, they're very dependent on it. And that's what's concerning, right? You have the occasional drink, okay, cocktail, but the amount of people that drink every single day and are reliant on it, that's what, is concerning to me with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The statistics are out there on alcohol. I mean, you can look them up. The CDC, once again, our freedom loving CDC, our warrior, our knight in shining armor, the CDC. According to the CDC, more than 50%. So we're talking half of the adult population has had alcohol, consumed alcohol in the last 30 days. Okay, so if you think about it, there's a lot of people in this country. And there's a lot of adults in this country. So to say that more than half have consumed alcohol in the last 30 days that's a big number. There's 300 something million people in this country. I don't know the statistics on how many adults there are in this country, but just to think, that means every person that I interact with on a daily basis, or you interact with on a daily basis, that means every other one of them is drinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. And as you dive deeper into those statistics, 16% of adults binge drink, and the CDC classifies binge drinking as for a male, 5 drinks or more, or 4 drinks or more for a woman, and that is at essentially one sitting, one dinner, one time. So you have a beer, you have another beer, you have another beer. All of a sudden, you got a 6-pack down. That's what they would consider a binge drinker, and for a woman, it's just a couple drinks less than that. And I think that's a big number. That to me, that's a troubling number to me.
Yeah, 16%. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that consume a lot of alcohol. Yeah. And what's the reason? Right? Like, why? Mm-hmm. What is that? I mean, water is essentially free. I mean, yeah, you may have a water bill you have to pay, or maybe you drink bottled water, but it's essentially free compared to what the cost of alcohol is. So what is it? I know if I drink, I don't wake up the next morning feeling good. I feel terrible.
Oh my God.
And that's one of the reasons I don't drink, is because I feel awful, because you know what? The next morning, my kid's Bryce is going to be up at 5:45 in the morning, whether I've had 5 cocktails or not. And that, waking up and feeling that way is just, it's never good for me. So I can't personally see the benefit. Like, there's no health benefit to doing something like that.
There's a few studies out there that'll say a glass of red wine is good for your heart, or whatever the case may be. But the overwhelming statistics are there is nothing beneficial to drinking alcohol. I guess every once in a while you have a beer. I personally don't like the taste of beer. If I was going to have a drink, it would be a cocktail. It'd be something that has, to me, a little bit better flavor. I personally, since I started 75 Hard, which would be January 4th of 2021, that was the last time I had a sip of alcohol. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go out there and be sober. That's not what I'm saying here. That's just what works for me. Obviously, high school, college, adulthood, I've had my fair share of alcohol, and I've had my fair share of nights to remember and nights you want to forget. I think every adult, that's just a normal process. But where the disconnect is, like you had just mentioned, you wake up the next morning and you feel like shit. And the first thing you say is, I'm never doing this again. So the disconnect is almost dependency. The disconnect is in the dependency part. I haven't had a sip of alcohol in 16 months. I don't plan on having a sip. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But the fact of the matter is, the dependency is the part where I think it gets a lack of focus, and maybe it deserves some more focus.
Is it a dependency on the alcohol? For what reason do you think it is? Do you think it's just dependent because they're addicted to it and you need that alcohol in your system? Or is it numbing them from the things that are going on in their life that they're not happy with?
Well, I got a great idea. First of all, most alcoholics will never admit that they're an alcoholic. My family members never want to admit it. You find it when there's
Mhm.
booze hidden under the truck bed seat, or there's booze hidden in a cabinet where we as kids couldn't grow. I grew up in a similar situation to you where especially my father, there was never any alcohol in the house. I'm 36 years old. I've never seen my father have a sip of alcohol in my entire life,
Mhm.
so I grew up in a house where there was no booze. So I don't know, but, even if, to bring it back, is it dependency or is it a stress reliever? Okay, there's a million other things that I can tell you right now, and I could take 2 hours to go over a million different things that we could do that would say, okay, you had a shitty day at work or a tough day with your family or whatever, something bad happened, where I can give you 100 things to do right now that would be better. It would serve you better as a stress reliever than it would be to go home and crack open a bottle or go home and, stop at the package store and grab beer. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and I think that's really what it comes down to. It's, you don't want to feel like shit the next day, but you end up feeling like shit the next day, and then you say you're not going to do it again, because how many times, like you said, did we do it and say I'm never doing that again, and then all of a sudden you do it again?
And what does that spiral into, right? So you have those drinks, you wake up the next day, you feel like shit. What are you not doing in that morning? You're probably not going to get your exercise in, your workout in. Your morning routine is not going to be what you know it should be, and it spirals for the entire day.
Oh yeah, it puts you in such a terrible situation afterwards. You just there's it's listen, if you don't drink, you're going to sleep 1,000 times better. If you don't drink, you're going to have 1,000 times more energy. If you don't drink, you're going to be in a 100% better mood. You're going to make better decisions as a parent, at work. You know what I mean? You're not going to have this fog or this malaise over you that you would if you drank. And at our age, Dave, I'm 36, you're 38. Like, we don't recover like we did when we were 21 years old. So
Not a chance.
if you have a hard night of drinking, dude, you are going to be wrecked. It ain't just the next morning that you're wrecked. You're wrecked. Your stomach's off. It's 24 to 48 hours, maybe even 72 hours before you completely feel back to normal again. But the vicious cycle that we live in this country is everyone cuts out early on Friday afternoon for happy hour, right? So let's say you have a hard weekend of drinking, watching football, doing whatever. Monday, you're going to feel like shit. Tuesday, you're going to feel like shit. Wednesday, you're going to feel better. Oh, wait, great. Thursday, maybe I'll get one good workout in for the week. Friday, I'm cutting out of work early again to go ahead to, happy hour. And boom, it's a vicious cycle that this country, that we as adults, unfortunately, are in. And it's hard to break the chain because alcohol is so prevalent in our daily lives. You never go to, even as birthday, right? Like, here's a perfect example. You go to a 4-year-old's birthday party, and what do the adults bring?
Booze.
Booze, right? Shit, we're at a birthday party for a 4-year-old. What the hell are we doing? We're supposed to be celebrating our kids. What example are we setting for them if they're there to have a clown or a trampoline or a bouncy house, and the parents are all just worried about drinking? You know what I mean? Not to mention.
And how about hopping back in the car after you've been drinking with your kids at a party and driving home?
And you literally just took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, and what does that lead to? Bad decisions. You make bad decisions when you're drunk. You have poor judgment, right? I remember when I was 15 years old taking my driver's education class, and one of the multiple choice questions was, what's the first thing that alcohol affects? And it's your judgment. You instantly have worse judgment when you're drinking. Not to mention all the health side effects. The DUI is a legal one, and you can get somebody killed.
You can kill somebody.
Yeah, you could kill somebody, but you're talking heart disease, liver disease. Just everyday ailments that
just
come with it.
Brain function. I know people who drank a lot over the years, and their brain, it's like just mush. Like they can't remember anything. Yeah. So what life are you living at that point?
And the amount of women that it's a terrible thing to say, but if they're dependent on alcohol before they get pregnant, there's a high probability that they're going to drink when they're pregnant, and that just opens up an entire another can of worms. Birth defects, dependency on when that child is born, dependency on substance abuse. It's brutal. It's a brutal situation. My wife has seen it in her, in her former line of work. She'd seen babies that come out. Mom was an alcoholic, and it's not a good scene, but I would, on the topic of alcohol, and for those of you that maybe drink too much, maybe you don't, from a cost effective, I'm going to tie you in here, Dave. I can't imagine that it does any good for your budget either, because alcohol is not cheap.
No, alcohol is not cheap at all. I mean, again, I don't buy it, so I don't know exactly what the going rates are. I know when I was drinking, like a 12-pack of decent beer is like $12. I mean, or probably $18 or $20. I think it was a 6-pack's $12. So
Yeah.
You're spending an awful lot of money at the store on something that's going to go right through you and make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
To me, that's not worth it. Again, water is essentially free. Yeah, you can go buy a 36-pack of water for $5 at the store if you want to buy a bottle of water, or you're paying your water bill. But I mean, in comparison to what the cost of alcohol is, it's non-existent. So you're already starting off, in the hole, because if you're going and buying that every single week, it's got to be a part of your budget. And if that's a part of your budget, where are you limited on spending from there? Are you spending less on high quality foods as well because you've spent more money on alcohol? So then are you buying junk that's on sale and cheap? So it keeps spiraling. So it's not good for the budget, and it's also just not good for your health in other areas, not just the drinking.
Yeah, no, and that's key to the budget, because like you said, when you discuss budgets, the most important factor in the budget is to make sure you write everything down. So if you're having that conversation with yourself in the mirror, and you buy a 30-pack of beer every week, or you buy a bottle of booze a handle of vodka or whatever it may be, you're damn well better be part of that budget, because that's something you do every week,
Yep.
And like you said, that takes away $20, $30, $40 out of your budget for healthy eating, which you should be focused on. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I guess over the past 16 months of not having any alcohol, I've grown to learn and see it differently. And maybe that's why. But for any dads out there, moms that listen to the show, if you want a good point of reference on it's a great story. So Rich Roll, if anyone knows who Rich Roll is, he has a tremendous podcast. He's very big in the podcast space. He's written some books. One of my all-time favorite books is called Finding Ultra by Rich Roll. He was an alcoholic. His story is very well known, and he's not afraid to tell his story. He goes in depth in his story of his battles with alcoholism and hitting rock bottom and all those good things. But the podcast that I want to recommend to you guys today to listen to is the Rich Roll podcast, episode 444. There's a guy on his podcast, his guest by the name of Andy Ramage, and Andy Ramage. He started a movement called the 1 Year No Beer Challenge. And he was an alcoholic. He was a broker overseas in England, and had a great childhood, was a professional footballer, soccer for us in America, football for those in Europe, and became a day drinker. Took a great job, but every day he talks about whining and dining. And, all of a sudden, without even knowing it, he was drinking every day, right? He didn't think about it. It was just part of his daily routine. He was drinking at lunch. And he put on a bunch of weight, went to the doctor, had heart disease, and he decided, hey, I got to change my life around. And he started with alcohol, and it's a great, I don't need to go into full depth, full length about it. Go listen to episode 444 of the Rich Roll podcast with Andy Ramage. His story is incredible. The podcast is incredible. The benefits that he goes over when he stopped drinking versus when he was drinking. I mean, it's a really, really is a great listen. So if you're a podcast guy, go ahead and listen to that episode, and you will love it. I promise you'll love it. And maybe you'll, maybe what I got out of it, because when I listened to it at the time, because that episode is now a couple years old, I made myself kind of look at myself in the mirror and be like, man, I was kind of a social drinker or a weekend drinker or whatever. Shit, Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday night, have a drink for no reason kind of guy,
Yeah. You touched on, you haven't had a sip of alcohol since January 4th of last year. So 16 months. There's an interesting thing I want to make sure we touch on. It was a Harvard study, and it said alcohol consumption went up 21% since COVID started. So we'll call that March of 2020, right?
2020.
And this study also concluded that the added alcohol consumption is going to result in 8,000 deaths from alcohol-related liver disease, 18,700 cases of liver failure, and 1,000 cases of liver cancer by the year 2040. and that alcohol consumption went up 21%, right? So I think that's a combination of people being stressed, not knowing what's coming their way. And then you just said it, people become dependent on it. And, you know, you could have a Wednesday afternoon drink, right? People were not able to go to work. They were forced to stay home. You're sitting next to the refrigerator and you're like, oh, I'll just grab a beer or I'll grab a drink. And those things just, you know, start to spiral. But I thought those numbers were staggering. 21% increase in alcohol consumption.
It's a huge number, and you're 100% spot on, because when the world went remote, nobody was there to babysit you. No one was there to check on you. There was no accountability. Listen, as long as you made your 12 o'clock Zoom on Wednesday, nobody knew what was in your cup if you had a cup in front of the Zoom, you know, and
Yeah.
it just the country went down a bad path. And listen, I have some family members that own package stores. Like, I don't want to see anything bad happen to them, but ask them how their numbers were over the course of the last 2 years. It'll blow your mind. They were busier than they ever were. And it works. It literally parallels with the alcohol consumption uptick, right? And now you can get alcohol delivered to your door, Dave.
Yeah.
You don't even have to do anything.
So simple. And, you know, you and I are both originally from the Northeast, right? And there's a lot of package stores there. In Arizona, we don't really have that. You can buy alcohol pretty much anywhere. But I'll never forget, during the pandemic, you know, the state of Connecticut and those bordering states, I think New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut, they were all sort of in the same, like, they had the same plan together. And they closed all non-essential, you know, operations. But package stores were able to stay open. They were deemed essential.
It's crazy. Yeah. Here. You can go buy all the health harming alcohol that you can want. Zero benefits, 100%, nothing good for you comes out of it. Okay. Or, you know, I got a better idea. Let's shut down all the gyms. That one right there, Dave. Boy, does that make sense. Shut all the gyms down. Go shut down the places. Find the owners. Okay. Arrest owners. That's happened, by the way. Look it up. There's plenty of examples out there where owners were arrested for keeping their doors open. So the place that gets you healthy, you shut it down. The place that keeps you unhealthy, you keep it open.
And arrest the people that are strolling along the beach by themselves with their dog and their kids with nobody else around. Arrest those people. But on your way home, if you want to swing through the package store and pick up a handle, go for it. All good.
Cool. Some, you know, with Uber Eats and whatever the other ones are, you know, like I said, you didn't even have to leave your couch. You could have that bottle of rum delivered to your front door without even blinking. You know, there's package stores that are drive-through package stores. I've literally seen drive-through package stores where you can pull up to the window and they can sell you the shit right through the window, like a coffee shop. You know, and you know, and to tie this, you know, alcohol in general, right? We could do an hour-long show on alcohol. All right. But at the end of the day, we are full force fathers. All right. We are trying to be our best. We're trying to excel in our fitness, in our faith, and in our finances. Okay. Why are we trying to excel? Because we are trying to set the standard, because we are fathers. And the most important thing in the world is our children. Okay. So we have to be the example. Would you rather be the dad that's drinking 3, 4, 5 times a week and then being miserable when your kids want to just play, or realize this is garbage, ain't good for me? Of course, I want to go outside Madison and kick the soccer ball. That's the difference. It really is that cut and dry. It's that cut and dry. You're either going to be a drunk, or you're going to be dependent or socially dependent on it, or you're going to go outside and play with your kids more. You're going to go for a run instead of coming home and having a drink. You're going to take your dog for a walk. You're going to hit the gym and blow off that steam and stress from your day at work at the gym, or you're going to come home and find it in the bottom of a bottle. Because I promise you, I don't care what you think, what you say, the bottom of the bottle is not the right choice. That's not going to solve your problems. It's going to make problems worse, and it's going to make you broke. All right. To tie it back into the proverb, it's going to make you broke. It's going to make you poor. All right. If you're drinking every day, you will be in a worse off financial situation than you would be if you were not drinking every single day.
And your relationships are going to be trash too. Your relationships with your spouse, your relationships with your kids, they're going to be trash, because your kids are going to always see the bottle coming before the time with them or the attention that they deserve and should have. And that's nowhere you want to be either. So, and then does that just compound and you just start drinking more? It's not a good cycle.
Yeah, and you compounds when you drink more. To segue into the second part of this program, when you drink more, Dave, what do you do?
What do you
Eat
do?
more. You eat more. You absolutely you eat more. Okay? Because you don't care what you're eating at that point. All right? You're going to eat more crap. You're going to eat more drive-through. You're going to eat more delivery food, all right? Instead of making dinner at home and eating healthy and having a damn budget when you go to the grocery store and getting what you need for the week. Okay? It just like with alcohol is a real pandemic alcoholism in this country, overeating, gluttony. Okay. America, and this is a bold statement, get mad at me. Go ahead. This is where I probably get some criticism and I'm A-okay with it. America is fat. Blanket statement. This country is obese. This country is overweight. Put whatever adjective you want to put in there. This country has a national pandemic of unhealthy, overweight people. Period.
Well, to your point, 40% of the population is considered obese.
Yeah, that 2 in 5, Dave. 2 in 5. Yeah, that's insane.
2 in 5. Yep.
2 in 5. 2 in 5 adults are considered obese. And listen, you can once again, we can laundry list the problems that come from obesity: heart disease, diabetes, stroke, cancer. You know, the list never ends. 2 in 5 people are obese. That's not overweight. That's obese. That's even worse than being overweight. Overweight. And the problem is, and this is a key point. People in this country, because there's so much convenience, nobody wants to make dinner at home. They want quick and easy.
It's laziness.
You're lazy. There's no discipline. You're lazy. America's fat. Okay. People in this country look at food for comfort when they really essentially need to look at food as fuel. You need to eat to survive. We are human beings, and at our very core, when time first became of existence, you ate to live. You ate to survive. You didn't eat because you had a bad day at work or your girlfriend broke up with you or you got in a fight with your wife. You ate. It was fuel. It's what kept you going throughout the day. America now, just you eat for comfort, and that's the problem. It's just so much easier to go get a cheeseburger at McDonald's or Burger King than it is to just cook something at home. And that's our problem. It is a pandemic. It's a bigger pandemic than COVID ever could be. Is the problem? Problem in America? You know,
for sure. And they kept, again, you want to bring up COVID, right? We talked about how they kept the package stores open. They closed down all the mom and pop restaurants where you could actually go and have a healthy meal and kind of know what was in there. But all the fast food restaurants were open. All those commercials will start pumping you there and directing you there to go through the drive-thru and get your food. You can get your McDonald's or you can get your Burger King anytime you want it. And, those things were readily available.
Yeah. And we got to stop eating food as feelings. I mean, it's a simple statement is that if you eat for fuel and you don't eat for feelings, you're going to be better, because just like drinking too much alcohol, man, let me tell you, that double burger Whopper thing from Burger King, man, it tastes good with those French fries as it goes down. But just like after drinking, you feel like crap the next day. You absolutely do. You know what I mean? Or just right afterwards, because you're so full, you don't want to move, Outside of holidays, I try not to eat to be that full, because holidays there's just so much stuff in front of you, and everyone's guilty of over consuming at the holidays. You got, pumpkin pies and cheesecakes and whatever, roasts and turkeys, and you name all the sides, you're bound to overeat every once in a while. But fast food is insane. And the other statistic, Dave, that you wanted to mention about food is how people are spending their money on food versus in their budget per se.
Yeah. And, the stat is 50% of families eat dinner together at home, right? And the American household spent more money eating out than they did eating home. And that is a huge problem, because the cost to go out to eat is so much more than the cost to make a meal at home. And I know inflation, right? It's a big thing. It's a very real thing. You mentioned right at the beginning, $13 for 5 dozen eggs. That price has skyrocketed.
Yeah, it was $5 a year ago.
Right. But the restaurants they're still feeling they're feeling that same cost in their cost to get these things. So the price at the restaurants are going to go up, right? But here's the thing. So last week I posted the meal plan that Casey and I had at home for the week, right?
Mhm.
The first meal on Monday we were having it was a London broil. It was a steak. It cost $7 at the grocery store. I bought it on sale. When it was on sale, I bought a couple of them. I had them in the freezer, so I knew I was going to be able to take one out. So that's a $7 meal. Add some vegetables in there, a fresh vegetable, a frozen vegetable, maybe $5 between the two. So for a family of four, we ate for $13, right? The next day we had chicken. Same thing. I got it on sale. It was $1.99 a pound, right? We usually cook about 2 pounds of chicken. That's $4. If you add another $5 for vegetables, that's under $10 for a meal. Okay. And this continued on for the whole week. Every meal was less than $15 made at home. If you're to go out and have that same meal, it's going to cost you at least $75 probably for a family of four. That's no appetizers, no drinks, no desserts. That's just meal and tip out the door. So for what I spent in 7 days is what would cost one night out to eat. So you destroy your budget when you start making it a priority to go out to eat frequently.
Yeah, that's crazy. Only 50% of families eat dinner at home. And just this past year is when the pendulum officially swung to the majority of the budget, like you said, being spent out. 50.3% of the family budget for food is spent out to eat, whereas
50 years ago, that was 25%.
Yeah, so that's one generation. So one generation of America, we've gone from eating out 1/4 of the time to now eating out over half the time. And
Mhm.
it's amazing. And the health part of it makes no sense. Your kids want a Happy Meal. It's way easier, Dave. Let me ask you a question. Is it easier as a parent to just drive through the McDonald's Happy Meal line, or is it easier to cook dinner at home? What's easier? Honestly, what's easier?
Well, it's easier to drive through the Happy Meal line.
Yeah, 97% of kids' Happy Meals, whether it's McDonald's or any other fast food restaurant, are unhealthy. They don't even qualify as a healthy meal. So
Mhm.
half of the time, more than half of the time, people are eating out. In 100% of that time, almost 100% of the time, they're eating unhealthy.
Mhm.
That's the number. But that once again, this is the pandemic that nobody wants to talk about, and it starts with us. A lot of our key points and key topics that we talk about, it starts with us as dads, as the leader of the household. There's a lot of moms out there that lead the household, single moms. We salute you 100%. We're all in for you. You're battling out there, and that's why we love when moms listen to the show too. But we as parents have failed. We don't cook dinner at home anymore. We don't. We always say we don't have time. Okay, that's the main excuse, Dave. Every single time is we have no time. Okay, that is such BS.
It's a
We have
cop out.
nothing. It, we have time. All right. We do. Okay. Yeah, there is soccer practices. There are things that happen, but there's
Mhm.
time to make dinner. As much time as it takes you to leave the house, drive down the street, who knows how far to get your fast food, to drive back home, to rush around, to get the kids to soccer practice, you could have cooked something at home.
And there's time to make it, and there's also time to sit together as a family around the table and
Yep.
enjoy the food that you made instead of everybody
Absolutely.
going to their separate place
Yeah.
and not talking.
And that's a challenge, we like throw little challenges out here. That's a challenge to all the dads out there, all the moms out there, all the parents out there. We challenge you to eat dinner at home. If you
Mhm.
look in the mirror and you don't, be honest with yourself. No, we don't, but
Mhm.
try. If you only eat dinner at home twice a week, try to make it 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and eventually work your way up, because 2 ways to become obese and broke are eating out. Okay.
Mhm.
You will
Yeah.
become fat and you will become broke.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this before. Our going out to dinner budget when we started our debt-free journey was $100 a month. Do you know what it is today?
I don't know, $150 a month.
It's $100 a month.
So that
It
isn't
hasn't
that isn't
changed.
that hasn't even changed. It hasn't even changed for you.
No, hasn't changed in 6 years since we started this journey. That number is exactly the same. We cook at home 6 to 7 nights a week, Usually we'll go out for pizza or, one of our favorite Mexican spots. We might go out twice a month. That's usually what it ends up being. And the rest of the time we cook at home because, quite honestly, dude, I think I make better food than most of the places I can go. And it costs me a fraction of what it would cost to go out to eat.
Well, I can attest for that. Your food is better than going out to eat.
But you gotta, right? A lot of people are like, well, I suck at cooking. I'm no good at cooking. Try.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
Try, especially now with YouTube, right? You can go out, you could watch somebody make something, you could go home and make the exact same thing. I don't want to hear that you have no talent. No, it's a learned skill, right? I didn't know how to cook anything. I watched my mom a little bit growing up. But then, like, once we got married, I started cooking and started, experimenting with things. And now I absolutely love to cook. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's a stress reliever for me, and getting a chance to make good things that people enjoy, like, that brings me happiness. So, that's an added thing for me. But, maybe people that don't do it, you just don't know maybe that you have a passion for it or that you'll like it. Just give it a try, and I guarantee you're going to get better at it. You're certainly not going to get worse.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Try to cook. I mean, listen, I am not the best cook. I am not the best cook in the world. And Dean handles most of the cooking. I'll handle the grill, but other than that, Andine she's the master of our kitchen. And but at the end of the day, you got to try, right? You're never going to know. The only way to find out is to find out. So how do you even know you're a terrible cook? You're giving yourself all this criticism and you're giving yourself no credit because you won't even try it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll fall in love with cooking at home, and that's that. But in conclusion to the food portion, like, there's plenty of things you can do to stop overeating, to stop, going through the drive-through. All right. From a financial side, make a damn budget, period. End of story. Make a budget. All right. Because if you allot yourself $200, $150 a week for groceries, and you actually, Dave, have the discipline to say $150 a week, I can promise you this: you ain't going out to fast food restaurants. You're buying dinner at the store, because that $150 will get you about 2 days, maybe 3 days in the week if you're eating out all the time, and then you'll have no budget left. You have no budget left. Another thing: 9 times out of 10, you are not hungry. You are bored. Period. End of story. You are
or
bored.
Thirsty. Drink some water.
Yeah. Drink a glass of water. If you feel like you're hungry, drink a glass of water. I promise you, it'll fill you up. If you're about to sit down on the couch with a bag of potato chips, go for a walk. There's very, 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 very few times where you're actually in dire need of food.
You said it before, and listen, I've battled with this my entire life. I've battled my weight, and it's been something that it's a constant thing for me. But one of the things you said earlier, I want to make sure we kind of hit home for people, is that you need to use food as a fuel source. And that's something you said to me right after we kind of became friends and got to really know each other, that has stuck with me. And it's been one of the things I try and remind myself when I, want to go and get that burger or eat junk. Is my body going to benefit from this? Is this going to help my body move forward? Is this, like fueling your car, is it going to help me go or no? And usually the answer is no. Mm-hmm. And it helps me, make that decision to be like, no, my body doesn't need this. It's my mind that wants me to have this. It's my emotion that wants me to have this. And listen, those are very real things. Like I said, I've been battling this my entire life, so I get it. But we have to change the mindset, because it's your mind and it's your emotion that are driving those decisions. It's certainly not the knowledge, knowing that it's better for you, because it's not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Pretty quick here. You could just say, listen, if you're driving a sports car, are you going to put good gas in it? Or are you going to put gas that's been sitting in a can in the back of your garage for 6 years, right? The results speak for themselves. If you feed your body with shit fuel, you're going to have your shit feeling, and it's not going to work. If you feed your body with healthy, good food and good fuel, it's going to work. And, but like I said, at the end of the day, it comes down to discipline. Discipline, you change your mindset, you change everything. Okay. Discipline. And that ties right into our book recommendation today, Dave, if you want to show it.
It is. It is Relentless by Tim Grover. Relentless by Tim Grover. Now, Brett and I, as we said, these are books that we've both had to read and go through. And this was one of the best reads I've had in the last 2 years, Brett. I don't know your thoughts on it, but for me, there's a couple there's one big piece in here, and it's how he described. Now he's a coach. He's a personal coach in the sports world. Basically, he's coached the likes of Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, guys that are next level. Kobe Bryant. Yeah, Kobe Bryant.
Well,
like guys that take it to the next level.
Don't even sell him short. He's the greatest one-on-one personal coach that there is in the world. There's a lot of them out there. He's the best. Period. End of story. Listen, if you are good enough to coach two of the top, maybe five, the greatest basketball player of all time, and maybe the second greatest or the third, wherever you stack them up. And Dwayne Wade,
close.
Dwayne Wade, who's in the top, could be in the top 10 too of all time. You're at another level. From the physical, from the mental. That book is phenomenal. I wrote down a bunch of quotes out of it, and I'll let me just say a simple one. There's a quote in the book that says, decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat. And it's as simple as that. You have to decide what you want to do, commit to it, act on it, and then rinse and repeat. Every single day you get a win. You know what I mean? And that's the quote that really sticks out to me in that book.
For me, it's the main part of you can be three things. You can be a cooler, a closer, or a cleaner. And in that order, a cooler is good, a closer is great, and a cleaner is unstoppable. And you can look at them like this. A cooler has an amazing game, a closer has an amazing season, and a cleaner has an amazing career. And that's the difference. You can be good, but what will take you to the next level is being relentless. And it's an absolutely incredible book, and I would recommend everybody read it.
Yeah, read it for sure. Go check that book out, Tim. Like I said, Tim Grover, Relentless. It's phenomenal. It's going to make you better. It's going to motivate you. And he's written other books, and I'm sure we're going to touch on another one of his books at one point in our book reviews. But yeah, check out Relentless, and it'll make you better. And at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do here is make you better. And you can check him out on Instagram at Tim Grover. Just like us, follow us on Instagram, all the main social media platforms. Listen to us on, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and watch us on YouTube. And we just appreciate it, guys. We're bringing the content every week. We're staying consistent. We're working on our discipline. We're holding each other accountable. And that's what we're asking from you. And that's what we're doing for you guys. So we appreciate you tuning in. I'll let you end it, Dave. Episode 5 is a wrap here.
Yep. Everybody, again, at Full Force Fathers on Instagram. Follow us on all major podcast platforms and YouTube. Keep the comments coming. Keep the interaction coming. We love it. We look forward to it. Full Force Fathers. Keep living the full force life. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye, brother.